views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.
Hi, I'm Mark Lopez and I'm inviting you to watch Pugad Vloggers, the show that tackles the latest issues in social media on DCRJ 8:10 AM Radyo Bandido TV.
Watch and listen to Pugad Vloggers, Monday to Friday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Airing on Sky Cable Channel 224 and on all DTT boxes. Simulcasting online on Facebook and YouTube. Listen and watch on your mobile devices. Just search DZRJ Radio Bandido.
Pugad Vloggers, ang kurang titirisin, sa loob sa bayan wawalisin, walang sasantuhin, ang saya-saya nakakabaliw, kasama natin ang tropang Pugad Vloggers. Pugad Vloggers.
Okay, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Orion Perez Dumdum. Welcome to Pugad Vloggers. At alam nyo po mga kaibigan, meron po tayong dalawang guest. May regular po tayo dito. Basically, parang parang co-host ko na yan, si Carlo. At nandito rin ang isang nating kaibigan, si 𝗕𝗵𝗴𝗲𝗿𝗀. So, dalawa po ang matatawag nating guests natin ngayon. Si 𝗕𝗵𝗴𝗲𝗿 at saka si 𝗕𝗵𝗴𝗲𝗿. Kamusta po kayo mga kaibigan nating taga-correct?
Ito, busy.
Yan, busy. Gabi, ikaw, kamusta ka naman?
Same naman. Good evening to both of you. I'm a little bit busy, but I found the time to show up tonight.
Good. Looks like you're in Singapore with that background. So, ako, wala po ako sa Singapore ngayon dahil umalis na po kami. Dahil doon sa pinanggagawa nitong mga cyberbullies na nanggulo sa buhay ko. Pero makikita po natin mamaya-maya, later on, siguro next year, malalabas ang verdict na guilty itong mga masasamang mga psychopath na ito. Itong mga masasamang tao. Alam naman natin yung kwento, di ba? Ano ba ang nangyari doon, Gabi, Carlo? Naalala niyo yung kwento? Ang ginawa ng mga to?
Yung hindi daw totoong poor yung Filipina na teenager na babae.
Yun, sinasabi daw. Oo, yan si 𝗕𝗹𝗏 na isang psychopath ng Singapore. Psychopath po yan kasi alam nyo, ang problema ng mga psychopath, yun yung parang wala naman silang nakukuha pero gusto lang nilang manlait at saka sobrang focused sila sa kanilang pinanggagawa.
Kulang
diba?
sa pansin, pamakayan.
Kulang sa pansin, siraulo talaga. Siraulo talaga. Ito si 𝗕𝗹𝗏, ang ginawa, siniraan si Zoe Gabriel. Ang ginawa ko naman, kinoreksyonan ko lang siya. All I did was to correct her wrong facts, right? Simply put, nagkiklaim siya na mayaman daw ang pamilya ni Zoe. Sabi ko nga naman, paano siya magiging mayaman kung isa lang, ilan ba sila sa pamilya? 6 sa family. Nanay, tatay, 4 na anak. Ang tatay lang ang nagtatrabaho. At hindi naman siya sobrang laki ng sweldo. Siguro nasa 7.5 lang. Sa totoo lang, mga 7.5 Singapore dollars yan. Kaltas agad dyan ang mga siguro 3,000 plus na rent ng saan sila nakatira. So yung naiwan na pera na yan yung pangkain nila, 'di ba? Tapos yun na rin yung para sa kung ano-ano pa yung kailangan nila para sa school. Ito na dito ako pumasok at sinabi ko, alam mo, 𝗕𝗏𝗏, ang school costs sa Singapore, kung ikaw ay Singaporean citizen, $15 lang per month. Kung ikaw ay yung anak, yung bata, ay nasa grade school. At kung high school naman, secondary school ang tawag, $25 lang, di ba? Pero kung ikaw at ang anak mo ay foreigner, malaki po ang kailangan mong bayaran. At least 20 times. At least 20 times. Kung ano yung binabayad ng local Singapore citizen, at least 20 times that ang babayaran ng PR, permanent resident. And at least, parang kumbaga almost twice what PR is paying ang babayaran ng isang total foreigner. Either naka-employment pass, work permit, or dependent pass. Kung yung bata naka-dependent pass, at kung naka long-term visit pass. So, malaki talaga ang babayaran. Almost 40%. Almost 40 times. Almost 40 times. So, basically, kung high school, secondary school, $25 per month lang ang babayaran ng Singapore citizen. Tapos, $930 per month ang babayaran ng employment pass holder tulad nung tatay ni Zoe. Kasi si Zoe, hindi naman sila citizen, hindi naman sila PR. Naka-dependent pass lang sila. Kaya ang laki. So kaya nga si Zoe, nag-drop out na lang sa high school ng Singapore, nag-homeschooling na lang. Di ba? All I did was to correct this woman at nagalit siya, nagwala si Raulo. Anong nangyari? Sinisiraan ako. Hinanap kong saan ang trabaho ko. Di ba?
Pero parang same yun na, Sir Orion, parang same yun sa isang profesora na parang giit siya sa kanyang mga false narrative na sinasabi. Or ano ba yung tawag doon? Is appeal to authority?
Appeal to authority. Ito naman si Serinho, wala naman siyang authority eh. Wala naman siya, hindi naman siya expert, hindi naman siya scientist, hindi naman siya public intellectual, wala naman siya alam. Ignorante nga siya. Di ba? Tapos, in-order niya yung mga kasamahan niya, mga thugs, na mga masasamang tao din, mga psychopath din tulad niya, nakatulad ni Aaron Heng, si Leonard Ong Untien, yung mga troll accounts nitong si Leslie Ang Kokwi, at pati na rin yung Rowan Ong Georgien, lahat sila nagsama-sama, sinisiraan ako. Tumawag dun saan ako dati nagtatrabaho, gusto akong patalsikin, pero umalis na ako doon. Tapos, ano pa ba? Pati saan ako nagsisimba. Nalaman nila saan ako nag-church. Ay, naku, inano nila. Gusto nila akong siraan talaga. As in, maya-maya, pinupost pa nila saan yung school ng anak ko. Saan yung... grabe.
Photo ng anak mo at asawa mo, di ba?
Pati yun, nasama din. Grabe talaga. Masamang tao talaga ito. Masamang tao talaga. These are evil people and the police know about them. I've filed cases against them. They've tried filing cases against me, but the investigating officers know that they are the bad people and they are going to face justice. And they will have to go to prison. Now, of course, in the magistrate court, there is a settlement phase. The magistrate is going to ask me, is there anything that they need to do to make this all right? And then, basically, they don't have to go to prison. And I'm basically going to say what I lost monetarily, all the damages, basically, whatever income we should have made had we stayed on in Singapore, because we were not planning to leave, but we had to leave, and because of leaving, of course, we're not going to earn the same amount of money that we were earning in Singapore. They need to pay us that. And then this evil guy named Rowan Ong Georgien, real freaking evil psychopath, says that that's extortion. What a guy. Doesn't know what extortion is. Lousy English. He doesn't even know how to spell. His grammar is lousy. He doesn't know subject-verb agreement. He can't get his tenses right. Yeah, so go figure. He doesn't know the difference between settlement compensation for damages versus extortion. Extortion happens when you are not the victim, and then maybe you saw someone doing something bad, and you're not the victim. You say to him, hey, pay me a huge amount of money and I will keep quiet and not report you, right? But I didn't. That's not me, because I'm the victim. It's like someone who burned my house, right? Like someone burned my house the house is worth $2 million. Let's say that it's a $2 million house. And then my, I don't know, $100,000 car. I don't know. Let's say, right? And then so I lost both. And then I basically tell the guy, because we caught it on camera, that he's the guy who did it. We say to him, look, you owe us all that, plus, of course, the inconvenience you caused when we lost our home. So you pay us this much. So 2 million plus the 100,000 plus maybe another, I don't know, 400,000 for all the inconveniences you caused, right? And that's fine. That is not extortion. But of course, Rowan Ongjerjen doesn't know. Of course, Serene Ho doesn't know. Of course, all these ignorant people don't know, because they are so consumed with their hatred of Filipinos and foreigners, because they're psychopaths. Well, they're you know what they've been doing?
Xenophobes.
Today, they're still posting all kinds of stuff against me. And you know what? The police are collecting it. The police are collecting all the stuff, all the screenshots of what these weirdos have been posting. So patuloy silang, they're getting worse. They're actually going to really become proven as like worse than guilty. It's like, would have been like, yes, you did that in the past. Maybe you stopped, but you did it, so you're still guilty. No, now they're even more guilty because they continued.
Legally called that counts of certain crimes.
Yes,
so one count,
digging their own grave.
They're just making the whole thing deeper. They're digging a deeper grave for themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's like maybe 5 counts of this was that, harassment, or maybe 10 counts of harassment and cyberbullying, now they've made it like 100 or 150, with all these posts that they make, and then so many people collecting the posts. There's so many Singaporeans who obviously their former victims are collecting all that. They're passing it on to me, and then I'm passing it on to the police. And the police, of course, are also monitoring their accounts. So, look, guys, come on. You're never going to win. Plus, I'm not in Singapore. What are you guys going to do? I'm not in Singapore. You guys, you have no place to flee. Your own government doesn't like you because they know you don't like your government. Ay nako, di ba? Grabe talaga, mga psychopath talaga. And I think I was told by several Singaporeans, unfortunately, this might be a problem of the very high pressure system they have in Singapore. Extremely high pressure Singapore system, like of their school system, which I think they claim, those friends of mine, Singaporean friends of mine, they say it creates a higher than normal percentage of psychopaths in Singapore society. But this is not only unique to Singapore. I mean, I think it's the situation also in other high pressure societies like Japan and
South Korea.
Yeah. So people can end up becoming really mean and vicious than they should be, right? I mean, most people are still the majority of people are going to be nice, right? But there's going to be a slightly higher percentage of psychopaths than normal. So
that is why mental health is very important.
It's very important, and unfortunately, it's only, I guess it's mostly the West that takes care of that, right? Like it really diagnoses it. But in Asia, a lot of countries in Asia don't really care much about the whole mental health issue. So that's a problem. I mean, well, then again, I'm back in the Philippines, and I'm helping out with a campaign for constitutional reform. I'll be coming.
So you're in Cebu?
No, I'm actually here in Metro Manila.
Oh.
I'm in Metro Manila now. So,
because I believe that on the topic of like mental health, obviously, I think we already know which countries perform the best on mental health. Talaga, I mean, it's these ones who are open to FDI. They have basically the better systems in place.
Yeah. They have the better systems in place, and then maybe they also don't have this extreme pressure too much, because like I think that's where Singapore will need to sort of smoothen the edges a bit, right? I think that's the problem, because maybe what's happening is that too much pressure is creating more psychopaths than usual, and that's why we ended up with this kind of like xenophobia, anti-foreigner stuff. And they're like in the Philippines, right? When people fight, it's just like just ordinary insults, verbal insults. That's all it is. But these guys, they really like they spent
You want-
hours and hours and hours researching about me, looking for where I work. I mean, I don't know how they did it, but they really spent a lot of time doxing, stalking me, finding out. Like, I don't know how they found out where my son goes to school, but they obviously did something. They really put a lot of effort into it. And normal people don't care, right? Us normal people, you have a fight with someone, we don't go to lengths to try to find out these kinds of things about other people. We just fight them based on like our argument on something, we just talk about that, right? But these guys, no. They try to find out where you live, where you go to school, where you go to work, and then they try to destroy you. They try to destroy you there. They try to call up
Destroy your character.
try to do character assassination. They do defamation, and it's terrible. I mean, it's really unhealthy. It's sickening. It's psychopathic. These people probably shouldn't go to prison per se. They should go. They should go to a mental facility. That's where they all belong because they're actual psychopaths, undiagnosed psychopaths. They really, I mean, really, it's caused them to become so freaking evil.
They're creating problems on themselves.
I know. It's terrible. It's terrible. All right, let's talk about what we need to talk about, guys. Okay, so Tagalog tayo ngayon para maintindihan ng ating mga kababayan. Okay. So meron tayong people's initiative na nangyayari ngayon. So 'di ba parang ang daming mga fake news na para mga sinasabi na ano daw, ganito binabayaran daw. Naririnig ko naman dito sa mga ibang kaso. May mga
wala.
kaso. Sa inyo wala, no? Sa inyo wala. Ang narinig ko naman sa iba, may pakain daw. May iba na pakain. May iba na merong yung incentive hindi para sa pumirma kayo, kundi para makinig kayo sa explanation. Kasi yung explanation ng haba-haba. Kasi nga, it's hindi naman normal na gustong pakinggan ng mga tao yung tungkol sa, yung jointly versus separately voting House and Senate. I mean, parang most ordinary people don't care about these kinds of things, di ba? So, paano mo sila aakitin na makinig doon sa topic na yan?
Simplified yung explanation.
Simplified explanation. And plus, sometimes kailangan mong bigyan ng incentive na makinig. Hindi mo naman sasabihin na bibigyan lang kita kapag pumirma ka. Hindi. Bibigyan kita para makinig ka. Ngayon, pag ito na yung sign-up sheet, na agree ka ba o hindi? O kung hindi ka agree, okay lang din. Basta't nakinig ka sa ano yung explanation, di ba? Yun yung narinig ko sa ilang mga lugar na merong daw ganon. Tapos, meron palang maraming ibang lugar na wala ngang bayad eh. Wala ngang incentive, wala ngang pakain eh.
Dito, napirma la, para nakuha na nila yung percentage dito. Hindi nga ako nakapirma eh.
Hindi ka na nga nakapirma.
Pinasana?
Kasi maraming tao. Oo, marami na silang tao talagang Kasi siguro yung mga ibang tao dyan pupunta sa barangay hall dahil meron silang ibang kailangang gawin. O yung iba nagre-renew ng lisensya o magre-renew ng business permit o magre-renew ng driver's license. Siguro na, meron pa ng ganyan
Kasi yung barangay, meron na kasi silang tao eh.
Oo.
So, thematic na yung pag-sign ng mga People's Initiative. Which is for me, very intelligent move. Na hindi yan nagawa ni Pangulong Duterte, yun lang pala.
Grabe, Ikaw, Gabby, ano ba narinig mo so far tungkol sa
Dito sa mga Bacolod, sa mga well-off areas, wala eh. But
wala.
like sa mga municipalities outside of Bacolod, I've heard nga meron mga signing sa People's Initiative.
Okay.
I've heard that.
What I've heard kasi nga, parang ganitong nangyari, ever since the pandemic, parang yung mga local government and so all local government, including governors and mayors, marami sa kanila parang nakita nila yung problema ng pandemic, and I think that caused a change of heart na parang nakikita nila na masama yung sistema natin sa Pilipinas dahil sa 1987 Constitution. Parang ngayon, nakita nila yung kasi ever since yun, yung mga mayors pa lang, time pa ni Duterte, mga mayors, gusto na nila ng federalism, gusto nila yung open to foreign direct investors eh. Yung mga ganun, gusto nila
Time pa ni
magkaroon ng
Gloria.
pagbabago. Time pa ni Gloria. Oo.
All the
The
way
only
back to
ones,
Ramos and
yeah,
Estrada even.
yeah, actually, local government generally wants it. Now, the only ones who really don't want it, the governors and the mayors generally want it. The ones who don't want it are the senators. And the senators don't want it because akala nila baka tanggalin yung Senado. Eh pwede naman gumawa ng Senado pa rin eh. Pero yun nga lang, magkakaroon ng new rules. Na magkakaroon ng magkakaroon ng
Tama
una,
po.
'di ba?
Tama po.
Magkakaroon siguro ng regional tawag nito,
Regional
senators.
representation.
Tapos yung mga existing na senators na meron ngayon, you can finish your term. Hindi naman kayo tatanggalin eh. You finish your term. Maybe you'll be given another chance, a second chance to run again for the next okay, sige. But after that, there's going to be a transition where later on, you're going to have to run as a regional candidate.
Pero ano yung masasabi mo sa mga academe na from the academe daw sila, from the premier school sa bansa natin, but they are urging no to charter chains. Meron pa
Yun
silang
yung weird eh.
patambling-tambling na emoticons as their response to
Napakalungkot.
my
Napakalungkot talaga.
Itong mga to kasi meron silang pinapaniwalaan yatang ideolohiya na yung makaluma, yung 'di ba? Yun yung problema eh. It's outdated and wrong, and then yet the problem is because they're not exposed to other countries, unlike people tayo we've been abroad. Ikaw, Gabi, nagkita tayo sa Singapore eh. Si
Yes,
Carlo
in
pumunta rin
2019,
sa
oo.
pumunta sa Singapore din.
Singapore and Hong Kong.
Singapore and Hong Kong. Ako, I've lived abroad for ngayon lang ako nakabalik talaga, 'di ba? I've lived abroad for a really long time and I've been able to visit other countries and observe different systems. I mean, I can really say with authority that the Philippine system doesn't work. And Lee Kuan Yew himself, the late Lee Kuan Yew, back in 1992, during the, tawag nito, yung
State visit.
1992 state visit, na meron siyang yung in-invite siya ng Philippine Business Conference. And during that Philippine Business Conference, yun yung naggawa siya ng speech na sinasabing, yung alala lang ng mga Pilipino ay yung sinabi niyang, I do not believe that it is I do not believe that democracy leads to development. I believe it's more discipline that leads to development, mga ganon. Yun lang ang naaalala ng mga Pilipino, but that was one small part of the starting, the introductory part of the speech. Pero yung talaga, yung main part doon, yung binabatikos niya yung sistema ng Pilipinas. Sinabi niya, masyado kayong closed, ayaw niyo ng foreign investors. Yun nga yung nagpayaman sa amin sa Singapore eh. Kaya kami yumaman sa Singapore ay dahil doon. Yun yung sabi niya. Tapos ginaya pa kami ng Malaysia, ginaya kami ng Indonesia, ginaya kami ng later on ng Vietnam, at pati ng China. Sabi niya, so parang kayo na lang ang naiwan. And that was in 1992. And we haven't changed the Constitution yet. At, isang tuldok, isang letra, wala. Ni isang pagbabago, walang nagbago.
Nabasa mo yon, Sir Orion, yung mga discussion namin sa Facebook?
Hindi ko pa nababasa eh. So, medyo na-busy ako, dami kong chores. Kasi nga, kararating ko lang.
Grabe yung patambling-tambling na sagot nila. For example, sabi daw niya, may ito sa kanyang TikTok, may masama ba kung ang ating constitution ay pro-Pilipino? Yung sagot niya, sa tingin ko po, wala. Wala daw. Pero sa atin talaga, meron talagang epekto. My brother become an immigrant to Canada. My brothers pala, naging immigrant ng Canada because of this restriction sa ating konstitusyon. Na sa Vietnam, yung kinumpara niya yung Vietnam, wala namang restriction yung Vietnam.
Oo
Kasi
nga
parang, pero sabi niya rin niya kanina, hindi daw siya protectionist. Go, you're protecting the interest of a few.
And
Ay,
the worst
nako.
part is we're being overtaken na by Vietnam. We're being overtaken by Indonesia. We're even
Sooner or
being
later,
overtaken by,
Laos,
you know,
We've actually
Laos.
already
Cambodia and Laos.
we were
Cambodia
already
and Laos,
overtaken.
correct.
We were already overtaken by so many countries a few years ago, and now the problem is we might end up getting overtaken by, Cambodia and Myanmar. Cambodia, Myanmar, and then Laos. I mean, look. I mean, the
Laos.
point is, look. Are we going to allow that? Like, we were at the top of ASEAN before. Like when I was in Singapore, I always heard this all the time from the cab drivers, especially the first few years that I was in Singapore. They would say, "Hey, you're Filipino, ah?" And I say, "Yeah, I'm Filipino." And then, "Hey, your country before, you're actually the richest country in Southeast Asia, and you are second only to Japan. You had all the new things, everything. Your people very educated, your English very good, blah, blah, blah." That was 1950s, 1960s. Hey, now, what happened? Why like that? Now your country very poor. Now, all you people, you come here to become maid, everything like that. Why? Before, Hong Kong people, the women from Hong Kong go to Philippines to become maid. But now it's the opposite already. Now you are the ones who go to Hong Kong and Singapore become maid. Why like that? So obviously, that awakened everything for me. Like, hey, like what's going on? And I bought all these books by Lee Kuan Yew or about Lee Kuan Yew and about Singapore's development. From learning from that, that's how I became so strongly in favor of changing the system of the Philippines. Because thanks to Singapore awakened everything.
Pero ito pa, Sir Orion, hindi na daw kailangan ng economic charter change kasi meron daw mga batas na pinirmahan si dating Pangulong Duterte.
Ay nako, that's not enough. Yung mga batas na yan ay mga workaround lamang. Workaround
Band-aid
na
solutions.
band-aid solutions na hindi kayang tanggalin yung bahid nung 1987 Constitution, economic restrictions against foreign direct investors. So talagang, kaya nga ako mismo, kontra ako dun. I mean, like, I think na it's a very half-hearted or parang watered down solution. Yung sasabihin mong lalagyan mo i-insert mo yung unless otherwise provided by law. That doesn't work. It's like your city has a lot of walls that have graffiti insulting tourists and insulting foreigners, right? But now you want to bring in more foreign tourists to come in and visit your city. But then you have to get rid of those graffiti that says, "Oh, fuck foreigners get out," those kinds of things. You get out of here, foreigners get out.
Wala kang mali daw nun.
Diba?
Sabi ng isang babae, wala daw yung mali.
Wala daw mali dun. Ay nako. You have to get rid of those from the walls, right? But when you paint over it, you gotta totally delete it and erase it. The problem is, if all you do is just spray paint white over it and there's still something underneath, you can still see what is underneath. You can still read the insults. You can still read the graffiti. You need to do a total whitewash so that there is no trace of that dirt, no trace of that offensive text. So you have to totally delete the anti-foreign direct investment restrictions. They don't have that in Singapore. They don't have that in Vietnam. They don't have that in Thailand. They don't have that in Malaysia. They don't have it anywhere. It's only the Philippines that has it. And no wonder we are top in ASEAN in terms of restrictiveness. In fact, not just ASEAN, but in East Asia, we're the worst. And in the world, we are number 3.
For 83 countries.
Huh?
For 83 countries, not including North Korea.
Now, without North Korea. So, of course, North Korea will be the worst, right? If North Korea was included in that. But we're kind of like them.
Napansin ko nga parang totoo pala yung sinasabi ni Professor Carlita Carlos na yung constitution natin madaldal. Kasi in Vietnam and North Korea, puro na siya chapters, chapter 34, 37. Dito, yung chapter is article, section A, B, A, pero mga ganun, meron pa maraming section.
Maraming specific na ilalagay. So yun yung problema kasi instead of writing there's a different skill between writing legislation and writing a constitution. So when you write a constitution, you're supposed to write in general terms, generic, general, like not specific stuff. The specifics are supposed to be done in legislation. That's the problem, because the people who wrote the 1987 Constitution were thinking of creating a huge piece of legislation, and they wanted to call it the Constitution, but that's not the way it works.
And supposedly anti-Marcos
Yes,
constitution.
they're supposed to be anti-Marcos, but then, hey, you got the
It
Marcos
totally
back.
failed.
It totally failed,
It
man.
totally failed.
Oh my gosh. Oh
Ang
my gosh.
kailangan daw natin, Sir Gabby and Sir Orion, is character change.
Oh my gosh.
It's not going
How
to
do-
happen under the ambit of this present constitution.
No, it's not.
Mahirap yan
Yeah.
talaga.
They don't understand that
Psychology.
they don't understand behavioral science and psychology, human psychology.
They don't
Like,
understand basic cause and effect. Period.
they don't understand cause and effect. Yeah. Because how does human character get formed? You know, your character, my character, it gets formed by the environment, right? What's the general environment? The general environment is actually a combination of different systems that are interacting to cause you to become the way you are, to behave the way you behave, and think the way you think, and basically end up with a particular type of character. So character is dependent upon the systems that you have. And for the most part, society's systems are dictated upon by the Constitution. So if you're...
Pero galit
Diba?
sila sa akin kasi ako daw, sinasabihan ko daw sila na yung mga statement and opinions nila ay fallacies. At sinabihan ko pa ng intellectual dishonest person.
Ay nako.
Which is totoo naman.
Sila yung mga sila yung mga
Sila yung dishonest talaga.
dishonest, 'di ba? Grabe talaga. Ito yung problema mga iba diyan. Dinadaan na lang sa titulo nila, pero hindi
And
sila
insult.
nag-research. And
Ininsulto
insult.
nila ako, hindi daw ako economist, at hindi daw ako, mag-law daw ako. Parang siya ata yung mag-need ng law eh.
Hindi nga niya naintindihan na ang Constitution actually dapat hindi specific. Ang
Yeah.
specificity dun ginagawa sa sa
And you
legislation.
you cannot amend the Constitution via Republic Act or
Yes.
ordinary laws of
Ay
the land.
nako. Sa IT,
Hindi ata yan tinuro sa kanilang school.
hindi
sa
tinuro
Diliman.
sa kanilang school. Actually, dun kunyari kami sa IT, tinuturuan ka, lalo na kaming mga nasa infrastructure na nag-handle ng Windows Active Directory. Yun yung mga user rights, ganyan. So sa mga user rights, before ka mabigyan ng mga user rights, nasa loob ka na isang group. Ikaw, you will belong to certain groups. And there are some groups that are bigger than others. So, nagkakaroon na yung tinatawag global policies. Tapos meron mga group policies. Yung global policy, nag-effect, nagka-cascade downward sa lahat ng users under that group, under that particular so-called global environment, no? Na sinet up doon. Now, pag meron kang group policies, hindi mo pwedeng para kumbaga all members of the group should have this. Hindi mo pwedeng magawa na yung subordinate na group magkakaroon ng pagkakaiba doon sa ano yung sinabi ng global. Kami sa IT naiintindihan namin 'yon. Itong ibang taong ayun nga, siguro wala silang concept na paano gumagana yung ganito. Hindi nila naintindihan na hindi pwedeng ma-override ng legislation because legislation is subordinate to the Constitution. They don't understand that. That's the problem.
Same lang daw kasi Congress daw nakalagay doon sa Constitution.
Hindi
Congress
nila
can only
naintindihan.
do so much.
Oh my
Congress
God,
can
Rico,
Only do
I
so
know.
much.
Is that a PhD professor talking about
What's her
stupid
specialization though? What's her specialization?
Allegedly, she's pretty good in economics. That's why she holds a doctorate there. Economics.
economics,
Bakit
but
ayaw niya yung baguhin yung constitution if she is in PhD in
well,
economics?
that's the problem with UP. It's very hit or miss, you know, because like, oh, well, at least, well, I guess the academe in the Philippines is kind of hit or miss. So you'll have really great people like Dr. Gerardo Sicat,
Ika.
Gerardo Sicat, who knows his stuff, really knows his stuff, and then he'll say, we need to change the constitution. We needed to change the constitution before. Now he's also part of the what do you call this? The UP School of Economics. That's where he's from. He's an economist. But then you will also have people like this. What's her name? Magno?
Cielo Magno.
Cielo Magno, who's supposed to be
PhD.
from PhD, but then she doesn't. But she doesn't seem to understand what Dr. Gerardo Sicat understands. So I don't understand. And then the same thing. There's also another person, also from the School of Economics, but apparently she doesn't have a PhD anyway. Winnie Monsod. And she also doesn't understand why it's necessary to, remove those.
I can only roll my eyes at the mention of her name. Yan
Oh
talaga si Winnie Bonso. Matigas ang kaniyang
Mayabang no?
ulo.
Wala talaga. Problema. I mean, look. Elitista. Oh, she's just basically what she does. Why she does what she does is to protect the interests of her fellow villagers in Dasmariñas village, Makati, the posh gated subdivision for very, very rich people of the Philippines. She lives there amidst all the oligarchs who are also from that same community. And that's why she doesn't want to change the constitution, because the current 1987 constitution benefits only the oligarchs who live in Dasmariñas village.
But there's an oligarch, so-called oligarch in the Philippines. Patay na siya ngayon. It's 𝗕𝗂𝗴𝗱. He's very vocal on
John 𝗕𝗂𝗴𝗱.
Maybe I would say that the word oligarch would not really apply to him per se. Because like what happens is in the Philippines, we use the word oligarch when we talk about those greedy types. Usually coming from land-owning backgrounds who don't want progress, right? But John 𝗕𝗂𝗴𝗱 comes from a self-made industrialist. He did things on his own, kind of thing. So it was his own blood, sweat, and tears that made him become rich. I mean, okay, fine, he was from a rich family, but they became poor when his dad died because they had so much debt, and he wanted to go back to that. And so they had no money, but what did they do? He worked hard, and kind of rags to riches went up again. So people like him, I don't consider them oligarchs. I call them self-made men, right? And self-made men think differently from the oligarchs. That's
Remember, wala siyang PhD, sir, ha?
Huh?
Wala siyang PhD title.
Wala siyang PhD. Yeah. John 𝗕𝗂𝗴𝗱 back in 2006 was very, very vocally pro-constitutional reform. He said, we should go with the parliamentary system. Come on, I mean, if things are not working out, right, you just kick out the prime minister. You don't need to have an EDSA revolution and, disrupt everything. Just a vote of no confidence, kick out the guy who's not performing. And then he said, hey, look, let's bring in foreign direct investors. Take out the anti-foreign direct investment restrictions. Allow the foreign directors to come in. They'll bring in their know-how. They'll bring in their money. They'll create jobs. When the jobs are created, Filipinos will have money to spend. And for me, I'm good. I'll be happy because when more Filipinos have money to spend, that they can buy more chippy, Jack and Jill products. They can ride Cebu Pacific more. They can buy C2 because more people have money. Hey, it's good for me too. But that's not how the oligarchs think. The oligarchs think in terms of a zero-sum game. If someone gets rich, another person has to become poor. 𝗕𝗂𝗴𝗱 thinks in terms of everybody can get rich. When the water rises, all boats float. That's what he was thinking.
I remember na dito sa Pilipinas, meron tayong aversion or outright ignorance of itong mga global best practices in terms of how to get things done.
Kaya nga, problema yan, ano, Gabi? Ikaw, ano tingin mo, Carlo? Parang ganyan nga,
Parang
no?
parang kwan USSR Stalinistic approach.
Parang, yun nga eh, ito na nga, kapitbahay na nga natin ng Singapore eh. Di ba? May yung mga pictures ng Singapore, mga aerial photos, yung mga photos of the communities
Slums.
before. Slums! Parang, apakala ko Pilipinas eh, yung photo na tapos nakasando lang shorts yung mga tao, yung mga nakakariton, mga parang gano'n. Akala ko Pilipinas yung tapos nakita ko yung faction, yung ano doon, yung caption doon. Singapore in the 1950s. Ha? Singapore pala to. And then when I look closely, ay oo nga, no? Oh, mga Chinese at saka may Indian dun sa likod. May ganyan. Oh yeah, this is Singapore. But it really looked like the Philippines because the photos, slums. And in fact, in the Philippines, we didn't have those slums back then. In the 1950s, we didn't, and 40s and 50s, we didn't have those slums. We ended up having the slums in the 1970s and 80s because as we continued to have the centralist policy, right, of Metro Manila being all, above all else, what happened? People from the rest of the country had to flock to Metro Manila. And when they
Combine
flocked to
that
Metro Manila,
with the original sin of, closed off economic protectionism.
yes,
That's
yes,
not a good combination.
that's not a good
Masama
combination.
yan.
I mean, it's funny
Remember-
because, go ahead.
Remember-
Yeah.
Nag-cite ako ng study in 2019 na protectionism, still protectionism with bad economics. Iba yung response niya, parang hindi pang PhD. Philosophic lang.
Philosophic.
To be
Ay,
honest with
nako. Wala masyado siyang alam pala sa mga
And
ganyan.
insulted me many times. So
Oh
I
my
insulted
God.
her many times.
It's just sad though. It's really sad that we have all these people who are saying the wrong things and they don't want to learn from other countries. 'Di ba? Sa kapitbahay na nga natin yung Singapore, parang puro din sila katulad natin tapos yumaman. Ba't hindi natin gayahin, 'di ba?
Iba daw yung kultura nila, sir. Yun yung sagot nila.
Yun sasabihin nila, 'di ba? Pero teka, anong pinagkaiba sa kultura na? Pareho lang din namang squatter yung squatter dito. Squatter natin, tayo nga mas edukado pa nga tayo sa 50s and 60s. We had a head start.
Disiplinado daw yung mga Singaporean, Pinoy daw hindi.
Yun yung mali nga nila eh. Kasi ang totoo, yung pagiging disiplinado ng Singaporean nangyari lang noong 1965 na nung naging yung si Lee Kuan Yew puwersado na niyang naging sobrang stricto. Pero before that, 1940s, 50s, pasaway ang mga Singaporean. Ang daming Singaporean iihi, dudura-dura kahit saan. 'Di ba? Mas marumi nga sila dati. Tayo, ang linis-linis ng yung Escolta at saka yung mga Binondo area. Magaganda yung mga kapaligiran natin eh. So, actually, mali yung sinasabi nila. Mas disiplinado. Hoy, yung disiplina, nangyari lang yun dahil kay Lee Kuan Yew, nagtatag siya ng kastriktuhan. Pero before that, pasaway ang mga Singaporeans. And even though stricto si Lee Kuan Yew, paminsan-paminsan din, meron pa rin tao sa Singapore na umiihi sa loob ng kanilang elevator. Yun, problema pa rin. May mga people na may old habits die hard.
Mental health issues na yan, sir.
Ayun, mental health. Katulad ng mga cyberbully na yan, di ba? Yun yung mga small few na maliliit na grupo. Pero nandyan, yung outliers, kumbaga, yung mga ganyan. Ay, naku.
So ito ba, sir, sad thing to read some articles or some posts from certain politicians that are supported nila yung pagbabago ng konstitusyon. Ngayon naman biglang kambyo sila lahat. Namely, Sara Duterte, Rodrigo Duterte, Jaime Marcos.
Oo nga,
and so on.
alala ko. Ito si Sara, nawiwirdan ako sa kanya kasi una si Sara, never naman niya sinabi talagang gusto niya ng federalism eh. Si Sara has always been against it. 'Di ba? Si Sara has always been against it. Tapos pero bigla na lang nung kinuha siya ng lakas, nagkaroon ng mga poster na sinasabi sa posters daw, kinakalat sa posters, pro daw siya sa federalism, Tapos ganyan ako, nasaan yung resibo? Nasaan yung video na si Sara Duterte mismo nagsabi, outright, I like federalism, I want parliamentary, I want ganyan. Wala akong nakita eh.
Meron din claim dito sa Dipolog, sir, yung napunta siya dito. sinabi daw niya, parang winisper lang ko. Bakit winisper?
Bakit whisper? Ay nako. I don't
Oh.
think, you know, I have some friends from Davao who told me that part of the problem is that um, si Pulong and Sarah, although outwardly sinasabi the dad likes to parang keep them in, sila may galit sila sa tatay nila. So kung may sinabi yung tatay nila na ganito, yung dalawang yan kumukontra dun sa kanilang tatay. Bakit? Kasi iniwan ng nanay nila.
Oh, nakay nila.
Nagkaroon ng ibang babae ang tatay nila. So
Family
ngayon,
issues, basically.
family issue. So may galit sila. So pag sinabi ni Rodrigo Duterte, gusto ko ng federalism, si Sara gustong mag-iba. Si Pulong, medyo ganun din, gusto rin mag-iba. So kaya last year, nung botohan ng Kongreso, ng House, para dun sa overwhelmingly pro ang mga House congressmen, di ba? Para sa constitutional reform. Si Pulong ang isa sa mga hindi bumoto ng yes. So,
Neutral ata siya, di ba?
parang abstain yata, di ba? Oh, abstain. Pero ganun din That's what I'm saying, na parang hindi. Bakit? I thought, Duterte ka. That means you're supposed to be for it. Ngayon, ito naman, weird naman, ito si Rodrigo Duterte, bigla na lang no to Chacha no to constitutional reform, which is, again, weird. So, honestly, as I say, I don't go for personalities. Let's just continue to go for principles. Let's go for programs. Diba?
Even sa mga post ng mga vloggers parang they accuse of Romualdez getting this koan. For me, dapat i-set aside nila yung issues na yan. Kung mayroon silang galit sa speaker.
Just this issue of constitutional reform.
Yeah.
Just
Ako, may
this
galit
issue
ako sa
sana.
speaker. But still, I supported that constitutional move of the
Yes, exactly.
House of Representatives.
Actually, that's the problem because they don't know how things work. Some of these vloggers, they don't know how things work in a collective and collegial body like the Congress. So they blame the speaker. They say the speaker is the one who is pushing for constitutional reform. No, it's not the speaker who's pushing for constitutional reform. It's the House that is, collectively. Okay? It was initiated.
I think including the mga LGUs Meron state yung city,
including the LGUs. Yeah,
League of the Cities.
League of Cities, yes. And then I was gonna say, I remember how it works. So congressmen were pushing for it, but more importantly, it started out first with the work of members of the House Committee on Constitutional Amendment. So that's Rufus Rodriguez. That's even people like Richard Gomez, Stella Kimbo, Joey Salceda.
Liberal Party.
Mga Liberal Party pa yung iba. And a lot of other people who are always pushing for constitutional reform. So that's the work of so many people. And the speaker, I mean, all he does is he listens to what the other people say. Oh, majority of you want this? Okay, I will sign it. Because, why will I go against something? Why will I not sign what the majority of the House are supporting? Because that's my job as a speaker. I should support what the majority go for. But they're blaming him. They're saying, he's the one pushing for it. We don't want this constitutional reform move because he's the one behind it. No. Who's behind it? It's 300 plus senators who are behind it.
Congressman.
Sorry, it's not senators, congressmen. It's 300 plus congressmen who are behind it. And it includes also a lot of people like the mayors and people like me who joined in as a resource person in the hearing. I was there. Tony Abad was there. Clarita Carlos was there. So many other people. Dindo Donato was there.
Even si Attorney Abad.
Yeah, Tony Abad. Yeah, Tony Abad. That's what I said. I said si Attorney Tony Abad was there. I mean, friends of mine. Basically, a lot of my friends were there. Who have been pushing for constitutional reform. We were there as resources, giving our knowledge, giving our inputs to the House Committee on Constitutional Amendments.
Ako nga, giving voice from the ordinary people from Mindanao, went to Cebu to tackle that issue na dapat talagang mag-constitutional reform na, especially liberalization of our economy. Kasi tayo yung parang we are exporting labor
Yes,
rather
yes,
than
yes.
exporting goods.
Yeah,
It's
Kasi
putting
yeah.
families apart actually. It's, tearing apart yung social fabric ng Pilipinas.
Oh, actually ito nga yung nakakatawa. So itong yung mga cyberbullies na yan, sinisiraan ako dahil sa correct daw. They don't like correct. They are against constitutional reform. Hey, weird psychopath idiots, Serene
weird.
Ho and all you other people. If constitutional reform in the Philippines happens, and remember, I'm in the Philippines right now, so you can't touch me. Look, if it happens, then Filipinos in Singapore will be able to go home, and we will no longer bother you.
Yeah.
You won't be angry that there's so many Filipinos. We'll go home. Okay, when the
Diba?
foreign investors come in to the Philippines, there are now job opportunities for us. We'll come home. And we will no longer be there to annoy you because you don't like us. You're racist. You're a xenophobe. All of you in your little group of psychopaths, you're all racists. You're all racists and xenophobes. And at the end of the day, we will go back home. This is actually for you guys. I mean, you should be happy that we're pushing for this. Diba?
They should
At ito
support
pa,
this.
They should support this. That's the
ito
weird
pa,
thing about these evil people.
mawawala
Man.
na yung rebelde sa Pilipinas.
Yes, mawawala yung rebelde sa Pilipinas.
Kasi bakit nag-bother
Diba?
pa sila magrebelde? Yumaman na sila eh.
Kaya nga eh. Grabe talaga. Okay guys, so we're actually down to our last 5 minutes of the show. So I'd like to hear from you your final shots, maybe 2 minutes each. Just say.
Sir Gabi mo.
Okay, Gabby, go ahead.
Thank you, Carlo. Thank you, Orion, for this opportunity. All I just want to say is that itong constitutional reform is a national thing.
Yes.
It's a whole of nation thing from Luzon, Visayas to Mindanao. And lahat tayo, we should really build consensus for what we want to happen dito sa Pilipinas. Because if we can't get our acts together if we cannot get our acts together as Filipinos, as a nation of many nations, as to what we want, history will find us on its ash heap of what we want. Yun lang.
All right. Do we still have Carlo? I don't know if I think his feed. Oh, there he is. Okay, good.
He's here.
He's back. Okay, good. Carlo, anong masasabi natin? Parting shots mo dyan.
Naputol ako. Pasensya na, may
Okay
tumawag.
lang. May tumawag. Okay lang. Sige.
Sa akin is stop blaming certain person na hindi parang bakit natin ba ipipigilan yung dati pa nating advokasya, which is palitan yung 1987 protectionist pro-oligarch core constitution na dapat na maunlad na yung Pilipinas dati pa is a long overdue. So even mayroon akong personal na galit sa ating Speaker of the House, pero wala akong galit sa kanyang move for Philippine Progress. Ano yung Philippine Progress? Yung tinatawag nating constitutional reform sa ekonomiya, constitutional reform sa ating political system na too much personality. Ito yung nangyari, personality na eh. Personality na yung, at saka super centralized na sa Manila na lang yung mga. So ayaw na namin na maging rebelde. Gusto namin maging mayaman din kami dito sa aming bansa, sa aming lugar dito sa Mindanao, which is Dipolog City.
Ayan.
Yan lang po.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for your inputs, your great inputs, Gabby and Carlo. Ako naman, I'll just basically say, guys, please keep on spreading the word kasi ito po talaga, kailangan po talaga ng lahat ng mga Pilipino itong mga reformang ito. Kahit yung mga taong ayaw sa reforma, sila rin makikinabang. Everyone will benefit from this. Even the oligarchs. The problem with the oligarchs is they don't know that actually once we improve things, they too will actually benefit because the economy will improve and they already have a head start advantage. They will actually end up, as long as they work hard, they will continue to still be rich. But of course, there will be other people who will also become rich, and not just them. That's the main difference. All right, guys. So Again, I wanted to thank everyone who's listening, lahat ng mga tagapakinig ng ating programa ngayon, mga kababayan. Maraming salamat sa inyo sa inyong pagtangkilik sa ating programa sa Pugad Vloggers. At ayun po, puntahan po ninyo ang website ng correctphilippines.org. Intindihin po ninyo kung ano ba talaga itong pagiging bukas sa pagpasok ng foreign direct investors sa federalism at parliamentary system. Alamin ninyo ang katotohanan kung bakit kailangan talagang baguhin ang 1987 Constitution. Maraming salamat po. Thank you very much. Good evening. God bless.
Pugad Vloggers, ang kurap titirisin, salot sa bayan wawalisin, walang sasantuhin. Ang saya-saya, nakakabaliw, kasama natin ang tropa. Pugad Vloggers, Pugad Vloggers.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.